Please subscribe and hit the like button.
Well, good evening and welcome to Yada Yahweh. We're here with Kirk this evening. And Kirk, I know you've been to the new Yada Yahweh site. It's yadayah.com or yadayahweh.com. It has all of the new books that have been retranslated and rewritten. When you go to the site at the homepage, you'll see a bookshelf that goes across the top. Every one of those books is live. If you click on them, there's anywhere from 500 pages to 700 pages of translations and commentary. You can click directly on the books, and it'll take you to each individual book. You see the cover and read from there. Also on the books is the link to Amazon, where you can get, with a single click for, I think, it's like $10 or something. It's just ridiculously inexpensive. The whole ensemble, every volume via Kindle, at about on average price, I think about $10, $12 a volume. The books are available for sale. We're not trying to encourage anyone to spend money. We don't make any royalty on anything. We offer them as cheaply as Amazon can print them and sell them. And then also the podcast. Every show that we have done is categorized and available via the podcast link. There's a whole community page. And the thing that I found out, Kirk, recently at yadayah.com is the thing that was the hardest to do previously is to make this kind of site, which is obviously written material, book-driven, work on a cell phone. And David has this such that you can bring it up on your smartphone and choose any book, and it's beautifully presented. I've almost every night for the last week, I've spent an hour or two reading various chapters on my cell phone. It's beautifully presented, easy to read, perfect to put you to sleep. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I do. I read for an hour or two most evenings, and I do it mainly because I want to see how someone coming to us in the most natural way, because there's 7 billion smartphones out there, how they would see these books and this site. So he's done a really nice presentation to make all of this work on the cell phone. So that's the Yada Yah site. I encourage you to share it with friends. We're going to return to what was the last chapter on Towrah. We are now translating and editing the second of 3 chapters on Yom Kippurim. But when we were sharing this with the editors, this particular chapter on Towrah, which is a translation of Yeshaya 55, 56, and 57. The reaction was so positive that everybody encouraged us to go to it and go ahead and share it as part of an upcoming show. And then we're going to return to our repudiation of Acts 2. And the reason we're going to do that, don't worry, it's not going to be a presentation of the Christian New Testament, but instead of repudiation of it. And the repudiation is really helpful because Christianity has been so harmful to God's people. And even for those that have left it and know that it's wrong, having this kind of evidence at your fingertips that demonstrates just how far afield those nincompoofs that wrote it went to besmirch Jews and create their myth of replacement theology, and how obviously it's false, I think is helpful. But what we're going to find is that when they quote passages, particularly Yoel, and we actually dig into those translations and find out what God said, it's most applicable to our situation here and now. So we'll return to that when we're finished with this chapter. So to to go back just a little bit so we can press on in context, here is some of what we reviewed last week. Listen diligent to me, listen diligently to me, and be nourished by that which is good, by that which is useful and beneficial, productive and valuable. This comes to us from our good friend Tov, and preceded by Shama, to listen. Even exquisitely pleasurable and extravagantly superb, divinely delightful and abundantly enjoyable, with these being the most desirable and beneficial options for your soul. Incline your ear, doing so of your own volition, and choose to walk to me. Choose to actually listen so that your soul may continue to exist. These two statements and the ones that follow are so direct. Listen to God. I was talking with a young woman that is one of Leah's best friends, and she had come out of a tough environment, and we're talking about how these books translate Yahweh's testimony. She's had copies of them, and I told her, this is a father-daughter relationship that Yahweh is offering, and but said that at this point, your opportunity is to listen to him rather than talk to him. And, her comment was, well, how am I going to have a father-daughter relationship if we don't have a conversation? And my response was, do you think that you're in a position to tell God something that he is going to find instructive or useful or that he should hear? Or do you think maybe, just maybe, that God knows a lot that would really help you if you listen to him, and rather than playing the religious game of praying to God, you just did a whole lot of listening? I recommend doing it for a couple of years. I think that at this point I've done a lot of listening. I've been doing this now almost 21 years. So I've done a lot of listening. And I still don't have much to say other than, wow, that was impressive, or thank you for that.
Well done, yeah.
That was, what a wonderful insight you shared there. That's kind of where we are. It's still at this point, and I would imagine this is going to be true for some time. Our relationship works a lot better if our conversations are, I listen.
More one-sided.
And that the only time that I talk is like on a program like this, where I'm sharing what I heard. It's the example of Dode, where Dode became a spectacular student, and as a spectacular student, he learned how to become a teacher. And it's
so we all need to go.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with sharing your words, but we don't really need to be. There is really nothing that I have found so far that I say, hey, you ought to listen to me, God, because it's going to be really good for your soul. No, but it's a real good idea, and that's what we keep on saying. Listen to Yahweh. You can listen to him by reading his words. Incline your ear so that it's your own volition, and choose to walk to me. Choose to actually listen so that your soul may continue to exist. Therefore, if you want your soul to continue to exist, what ought you do?
Carefully listen.
Yes, and walk to God along the path that he has provided. It is straightforward, but I guess nobody wants to hear it. I mean, you have prayer groups and the like, and then even have Bible studies of people seeming to think that they're going to get something out of the Christian New Testament. When God said, "Listen to me," I don't know of any place in the Christian New Testament that God's speaking in first person. No. That he's talking to us in first person. If you read the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, God is speaking to us in first person throughout all of it. this is a perfect example. The me here is Yahowah.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to listen to Yahowah, you need to read the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. He says, well, incline your ear, doing so of your own volition, and choose to walk to me, choose to actually listen so your soul may continue to exist. Then I will cut you into, establishing for you the everlasting covenant, which was affirmed and verified with unremitting love and unfailing devotion for Dod. It's central to what we've come to understand. We listen to Yahweh, we walk to him to become part of the covenant. The covenant is everlasting. There's only one of them. It's always presented as a singular thing. And when it says that it is everlasting, that means that there is no room for a renewed covenant. Now, this covenant is best affirmed and verified, particularly in a very loving and unfailing fashion through Dod. And God here is saying that Dod is the exemplar of this covenant. You want to be cut into the covenant? Then you ought to pay attention to Dod's life and lyrics, because he is an example of how Yahweh's unremitting love and unfailing devotion took a man who was so skilled in so many ways, but also very, very flawed, and made sure that he was right so that he could be vindicated. Behold, because surely I bestowed and offered him as an enduring witness to people of every ethnicity and culture, an authorized leader publicly promoting the truth, and as an instructor for an archaic and misled world. I would call that Yahweh's stamp of approval.
Mm-hmm.
No. Listen to me. Your soul will continue to exist. I will cut you into the everlasting covenant, which was affirmed and verified with unremitting love for Dod, because surely I bestowed and offered him, Dod, as an enduring witness to the people of every ethnicity and culture, an authorized leader publicly promoting the truth, and as an instructor for a misled world. That was Yeshayah 55:4. I want to emphasize this here and now, asking you to pay attention. There is a lone Gentile, someone who is neither a Israelite or a Yahudi, whom you consistently fail to recognize or acknowledge, that you can actually read, consistently calling you out, literally summoning you by continuing to make pronouncements to welcome you to an upcoming meeting. In addition, this lone Goy, who is not understood or respected by you here is Yisrael, and who possesses information you fail to comprehend, shall be and now has been hurriedly brought before you. And he is intense in his continual focus upon you, not wasting any time, genuinely working as quickly as possible to pursue you on behalf of Yahowah, your God, approaching the set-apart one of Israel. If indeed this is talking about us, and I don't know if there's any other candidate, and it is, yada, 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 all the way through this, then it is true that we are working as intensely and as quickly as possible. Most mornings here start well before 6 o'clock in this chair, rewriting, retranslating, providing commentary on what we're learning. And most days, I leave this chair around 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So, and I do that. I used to do it 6 days a week. I do it for the most part now 7 days a week, because I have learned that the Shabbat is active.
Active.
The one thing that we can do on Shabbat is what we're doing. This is a Shabbat-based program. We are actively engaged in celebrating the Shabbat. The Shabbat is not for doing nothing. It is for doing something, so long as that something is to study and celebrate the Word of God. For indeed, this is going on and speaking about this boy, he is reaffirming your status, lifting you up by shaking the tree to knock off the fruit so that it can be gleaned, preparing you for the harvest by recognizing and respecting your value. There are reasons that I have speculated, and I could be right or wrong, as to why Yahweh chose to say so much about this Gentile through Yeshua. There is an entire chapter devoted to explaining this is who he is, what he's doing, and how God managed to make somebody that would have no other credentials effective as a teacher, as a communicator of his word. And my initial thought was that there may be two reasons for this. One is personal to Yeshua, and Yahweh loves his prophets. And Yeshua, we're told, got to be very frustrated that with all of his long life as a prophet, that not a single person in his lifetime capitalized on what he said. All of these magnificent prophecies, the ultimate, consummate prophet, he's brilliant. So many of these things, are conveyed in his words. Yahweh was saying, I want you to write this down, but the prophet gets to inject themselves into the story. As Yahweh likes working through people, he wants them to interject themselves into the story. What we're doing right now, reading this and personalizing it, is precisely what he wants us to do. And so with Yeshua doing this job so marvelously well, and not to have anyone respond to him during his lifetime, it was important for Yahweh to show him that just like he talked to Samuel, where Samuel said, I have filled you, Yahweh, the people want a king. They don't want to benefit from the Torah and the judges anymore. And not only that, the king they want is modeled after the Goyim. And Yahweh says, no, they're not rejecting you, Samuel, they're rejecting me. And that's part of the message that Yahweh is conveying here to Yeshua. But when Yeshua lamented when heaven's door was open and there was no one there during his lifetime, I think Yahweh compassionately said, your words, what you're writing down now, it's going to have a profound effect on Yisrael, on Yehudah. And could be thousands, could be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, hopefully millions. But the remnant of Israel is going to celebrate Yahweh's return. And it's largely because of what Yeshua wrote. And so much of what we're conveying is out of Yeshua. And so I think God's saying, don't worry. I got you covered. Your words are going to make a difference. And I'm going to show you that here's this guy that is going to translate them and speak out about them and write about them. And they're going to prevail. They're going to resonate. And I think the second reason is that Yahweh really dislikes rabbinic Judaism. It's not just that they're wrong about everything. It's their arrogance. And so one of the ways that God is responding is he told Yeshua over and over again that I looked for someone from my people through whom I could work, and I found no one. And I found no one for a very long time. So he said, God said, I just withdrew from you. stopped even trying. But God made a promise to his people, and particularly to Abraham, that he was going to call them home and reconcile his relationship with them in the end. And so Yah was committed to doing it. And because of the stubbornness, the blindness of Yisrael and Yehudah, and the arrogance of his people, God said, well, maybe the best way to reach them is they can't stand Goys. They turn up their nose at Goy. I'll communicate to them through a Goy. I just think those are the two reasons.
Probably so. I don't know how. Who else could he go to in among the Yehudim? It has to be somebody who's secular. But who else?
Yes, I don't think there's anybody among the Yehudim.
No.
There are basically two groups of Yehudim. 80% of Yehudim are agnostic or atheists, and their lives are purely secular. They have celebrate a little bit of cultural Jewishness, but they're not religious. Mm-hmm. That's about 80% of Jews. And then there's the 20% of Jews that are Orthodox. There's a smattering that are Reform. The only difference between Reform and Orthodox is the Reform say, what the hell? The Talmud is ridiculous. We're not going to be guided by it. And the Orthodox, the Talmud has become their Torah. When they say they're Torah observant, that means they're Talmud observant. Sure. And of course, there's only, even though I will write, there are two Talmuds. One is the Jerusalem, the other one's the Babylonian. The Jerusalem Talmud is almost impossible to read. It's very crude. It's never really been edited. It is incomplete. No, the Torah of Rabbinic Judaism is the Babylonian Talmud. That's why I was calling them out of Babylon. So I think those are the reasons that he did it. And you know, God likes old rascals. So you know, I qualify. And you know, I mean, there are some qualities that he finds attractive in people, and we know this because of Dode. So if you've got some of Dode's attributes and attitudes, that's probably going to play well. So when you read Dode's Psalms, what do you find? Really outspoken, right? He is a heck of a student. He knows his stuff. He can write because he has read. He has a great relationship with Yahweh. He loves Yahweh's name. He is very articulate, and he's verbose. If you can say something in 100 words, Dode's going to take 1,000. That's just the way he is. He's verbose, but he's verbose about a topic that is life and death. Our relationship with Yahweh. He's courageous, and nobody backs Dode down. He's always willing to tackle anyone who is contrary to Yahweh's message. Passionate about life and relationships. These are characteristics of Dode. And so if somebody has those characteristics, Yahweh's going to say, that's what I can work with that. I'll put up with the other nonsense because I can work with that. And then you also have to think, to be really effective with Yahweh, that you need to have a little of Moshe. Now, Moshe also had a backbone. That man had courage, and he was also verbose. He was a good student and a great teacher. But one of the things about Moshe that made him exceedingly appealing is he was the only person at the planet who was exceedingly familiar with the political and religious entity that made Mitzrayim what it was, the crucibles of religious and political oppression. He not only knew the nature of the religion, and he knew the nature of the governance, the politics. He despised them. He saw what they did to his people, and he stood up against it and rejected it and walked away from it. That made him exceedingly valuable to
Mm-hmm.
So it is helpful if you've been stupid in the past. I mean, I don't recommend being stupid in the past just for this purpose, but there is
a learning
value.
curve.
If you have been stupid in the past, you can turn that into an asset by knowing how to expose and condemn it. So there is merit in that as well. So anyway, this is the nature of Yahshua, and it isn't just in Yahshua; it's everywhere in the prophets that when we get to the end, God has chosen, whether He uses the term choder or nakri or goy, or we're going to find two more that are used in the 56th chapter. That is lots of descriptive words. And what's interesting is that none of those words by themselves would be considering flattering. And you can't be flattered if Yahweh has chosen to engage you in some manner, because one of the qualifications is that you not be qualified. So God says, now, I want to emphasize this here and now, asking you to pay attention, you as Yisrael. There is a lone Gentile, someone who is neither a Yisraelite or a Yehudi, a Goy, whom you consistently fail to acknowledge or recognize, lo Yada, that you can actually read, calling out to you. I mean, go to the website, read all you would like. It's all free. Soon it'll be 15,000 pages. Consistently calling you out. That's what we're doing here as part of this program. Literally summoning you by continuing to make pronouncements to welcome you to an upcoming meeting. What is the meeting we're welcoming them to?
Towrah.
No, we are the living embodiment of Zaroa.
Well,
we're welcoming Yisrael to Yom Kippurim, the day of reconciliation.
Yom Kippurim, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So in addition, this lone goy who is not understood or respected by you, who possesses information you fail to comprehend, lo yata, shall be, and now has been, hurriedly brought before you. And he is intense in his continual focus upon you, not wasting any time, genuinely working as quickly as possible to pursue you on behalf of Yahweh your God, approaching the set apart one of Yisrael. For indeed, he is reaffirming your status, lifting you up by shaking the tree and knocking off the fruit so that you can be gleaned. One of the things that we learned, and as we translated Yeshaya 17 in particular, is that Yahweh is doing a gleaning, and that there will be Yehudim that don't have to endure the time of Yaakov's trouble because they were
responded
to be clean.
Right.
It's probably going to be 7,000, maybe 8,000 people, all total between Goyim and Yehudim, that will be gleaned in the Towrah harvest based upon the numbers that Yahweh provides. But that's still a lot of people. Yahweh was happy with Adam and the done. So that's a lot of people, and so this goy is shaking the tree, and that's the metaphor. Even in Yeshaya 17 and 18, is that the tree is the ripe olives, and that tree at the uppermost limbs are ready to be plucked off. But that's how you harvest a olive tree. You shake the tree so that that fruit is ready to be harvested. So it's the metaphor here is really important to understand, preparing you for the harvest by recognizing and respecting your value. The chosen people are more highly regarded by Yahweh than anyone else. One of the things I was just writing in a chapter is that we aren't chosen by Yahweh. We're not valued by Yahweh for being goy. Yahweh will accept a goy who chooses to be with Yisrael. So our goyishness is overlooked when we embrace what it means to be Yahudah and Yisrael, and we attend the invitations to be called out and accept the terms and conditions of the covenant. And Yahweh was really explicit, saying, there are going to be a lot of happy Goyim when I return. Because we have really ceased being Goy. We're just, we are Yisrael without the ethnicity of it.
Yeah. But you have the adoption papers.
Yeah, we have the adoption papers. We're coming with the Torah, as Dode said, so you can't keep me out.
Can't keep me out, no.
Yes. Seek learning the information which has been made available about Yahweh, while he may be found and encountered. Choose to call upon him while he is near. We are running out of time, and I don't think there's any other radio program or any other book series that are focusing on what we can learn about Yahweh. The series is called, and the site is Yada, to know Yahweh. Yada Yahweh. This program is Yada Yahweh Radio. Throughout these books, we consistently use Yahweh's name, proclaim Yahweh's name, explain Yahweh's name, and his name is essential to encountering him, choosing him, meeting with him, benefiting from him. And God says, those in violation of the standard, the unethical and the immoral, the religious and political, the rasha, should choose to reject their own way, along with the evil and deceitful individual whose beliefs, musings, and opinions are not true. Let him choose of his own volition to return to Yahweh, so that he may have compassion on him and love him, re-engaging in a relationship with him. And as for our God, he will actually forgive many. When I give, God says, when I give seeds to the one who sows, there is bread to eat. So shall my word be. This is important because there are so many places where Yahweh talks about the seed of Dode. And everybody just wants to go to the descendants of Dode. But Zaroa means to sow seeds. And here Yahweh said, when I give seeds to the one who sows them, there is bread to eat, so shall my word be. That means that the seeds that are being sowed by Dode are Yahweh's word. And that is what's being conveyed here. It says, for the benefit of the relationship, that which goes out of my mouth shall not return to me without result, delivering what was expected. If we are nourished by Yahweh's words, the seeds that have been sown by the prophets, including Dode, then his words will have the desired result, which is to form an everlasting relationship with us. Without exception, it will accomplish the relational benefits which I desire, for those I find pleasing, and it will succeed for the benefit of the relationship for which I have extended it. That's a marvelous review of Yashayah 11. This then begins, Yashayah 55 through verse 11. This then begins Yashayah 56, which may well be one of the most intensely personal chapters we have yet encountered.
Makes you cry.
Yeah, it does. It is. It does. It's personal. It's emotional. It's familial. It's affirming. It's reassuring. It's wonderful. It's terrible. It's all of those things. For this is what Hiko Yahweh. Yahweh is a transliteration of Yod He Wahe, or Elohah, as God directed in his Torah regarding his Haya existence, says, promises and vows. What is the only thing God tells us to do other than to listen to him? Shamar, be observant.
Torah, yeah.
Yeah, be observant and consider. what? The Mishpot. The means to exercise good judgment and justly resolve disputes. It's amazing how difficult Mishpot is for the religious institutions to translate. I mean, they want it to be commands, they want it to be dictates, or it's just. But Mishpot is the key to understanding. Mishpot is something we recognized, probably 5 years ago. There was a word that appeared in one of the early Yahowah prophecies that we were translating, and it's around Yahowah 9, I think, is when we encountered this, and it might even be in Yahowah 9. And it was a word that only appeared twice, and no one could figure out what it was. You had, things from left field trying to define it, and I just looked at it and was, wait a minute, this is a word like I want to use Mishpot as an example. Shabbat, which is the end of the word, is exceedingly common in Hebrew. It means to decide. It means to exercise good judgment. It is to be discerning. It's to differentiate between right and wrong, good and bad. It's to be just. So Shabbat is to judge, to be judicious,
okay.
to think and form rational and logical conclusions is Shabbat. Well, then there's two ways of writing the prelude to that, either ma or me. Ma and me are both the interrogatives in Hebrew. As an interrogative, what it does is it encourages us to ask who, what, where, why, when questions.
Yeah.
And it encourages us to ponder the implications of something. So Mishpot says, I want you to think about, to ponder the implications of exercising good judgment, of making good decisions. And if you make good decisions, in a just manner, you resolve disputes. So God is saying, for this is what Yahowah says. Be observant. Remain focused. Closely examining while thinking about the means to exercise good judgment and justly resolve disputes. Mishpot. Then engage. Ashah. Acting upon. Doing, profiting from. That which is correct and vindicating. Tzedakah. That which is right, justifiable, and acquitting. Because indeed, my deliverance and resulting salvation, Yeshua, my liberation and freedom from Yasha, which is to save, to liberate, to free and deliver, are approaching, are near, and they are intimately personal. And the one who is correct about me will come, and he will be revealed. He will be made known, disclosed, and seen. So, the first part, it's hard to imagine a statement where every single word of that statement is among the most important in the language. Key. This is truly and surely, verifiably, what Yahowah, the name of names, says, Amar. Shamar, be observant. About what? Mishpot, the means to exercise good judgment, to think, to make good decisions. And then Ashah, engage, act on what? The tzedakah, that which is right.
The question you said. Yeah,
justifiable, correct, vindicating, acquitting. Why? Because my salvation, my deliverance, my liberation, my freedom is near, close, and intimately personal. And the one who is correct about me, tzedakah, who was right about me, it's actually tzedakah ane, the one who is right about me, the one with the just cause, he will come and he will be revealed. Allah.
Yeah, that's even better. Yes, that's expose everything. That's uncover it, show it off, show people not only what Yahweh is saying, but what they say, everyone else is saying wrong. So that's got you in a nutshell. I mean, you got you right there.
Yes. So to be saved, to be saved, we must know, and to know, we must be observant. We must also act, engaging based upon what Yahweh has shared. We must also be right, and to be correct, we must exercise good judgment. So while Yahweh saves, he is discriminating. I want to repeat that because this is a really important mindset. To be saved, we must know. And to know, we must be observant. We must also act, engaging based upon what Yahweh has shared. We must also be right. And to be correct, we must exercise good judgment. Yahweh repeatedly reveals that Dod is tzedakah. He is the righteous one who is returning. However, Dod has been so meticulously revealed. He's better known than anyone in Yahweh's unfolding story, other than Yahweh himself. You know, I think there's 1,073 specific named mentions of Dod. So there is nothing secret about Dod. We're not waiting to reveal Dod. He is, you know, Scott says, here's the poster child.
He's pretty open. Yeah, he's pretty open.
Here's my guy. He is my son. I am his father. He's the Messiah. He is the king. He is the shepherd. He is my chosen one. He is the branch. He is my firstborn. Okay. He's been disclosed. Therefore, Yeshayah may be reminding his people that the Goy, which Israel is one to deny, the one conveying Yeshayah's and Dod's message is here. This reference may serve to affirm that he is right about God, so that Israel anticipates his arrival and looks to him for answers.
Yes, by the way, it's 1,075 times.
Yeah, and it's I think you look at they're all keyed off the Masoretic text, and so I think you can push it one way or the other 2 or 3 times. Blessed by the benefits of the relationship is the person who acts upon and engages in this. God didn't say, blessed with the benefits of the relationship is the person who has faith. He didn't say it's the person who is religious. He didn't say it's the person who is good.
No.
Nope. Most certainly didn't say it's the person who's Catholic or evangelical. No, blessed by the benefits of the relationship is the person who acts upon and engages in this. What's this? Everything we've shared so far in this program.
Every one of these things.
Yeshayah 55 and now so far in 56. Because the Son of Man, of Adam, by observing the Shabbat, the seventh day of promise, and by not defiling and profaning it, without making it common and ordinary, treating it with contempt, he is empowered and strengthened, enlightened and restored. He prevails and established, invigorated and enabled, becoming intensely steadfast and unwavering, renewed and resolute, firm and capable by it. And by being observant, by remaining focused and thoughtful, his hand, his actions, and that which he influences is kept from acting upon or engaging in anything unjust, immoral, or irrational, counterproductive, or evil. Well, one of the things that strikes you here, this is you read through this, is that this child of man, this child of Adam, by observing the Shabbat and not by defiling it, by not making it common, making it special, he's empowered, he's strengthened. You're not, I want to tell you folks, I've worked out a few days of my life, and I've gone as a couch potato a few days of my life, and I can assure you I was never strengthened by being a couch potato. You know, a nap is not going to cause enlightenment. If you want to be enlightened and you want to be strengthened, you got to work. And so when we celebrate the Shabbat and make it special based upon what we learn on that day about Yahowah, then we are strengthened and enlightened and empowered by it. And the other thing is God is saying, if you diligently observe, if you study my words, and even if you just are influenced by someone who is studying my words, you're going to be kept from doing something that's irrational, like being religious. So this begins by stating that the person who engages in the aforementioned is blessed. Therefore, we receive the benefits of the covenant relationship by being observant, by exercising good judgment, and by acting upon that which is right, and therefore vindicated. This leads to immediate deliverance and salvation. God then discloses that the child of Adam, first man, of course, born within the Psalma, is why he would say child of Adam. So we're just talking about a young person. Yeah, a young person from Yahweh's point of view. Now, Moshe was 80 when he started his journey, and 120 when he ended, and Yahweh would still call Moshe a child. Yeah, he was a child. And from God's perspective, he was a child. And in fact, I don't think even through eternity we ever grow beyond the status of being God's kids. So this child of man with a conscience, by observing the Shabbat, is strengthened and empowered and enlightened and restored, becoming steadfast and unwavering. And this means that the active, studious approach that we've discussed regarding the seventh day is valid. And it's a place where we get a lot of pushback from religious Jews.
I would think, yeah.
So the religious all profane this, making it common by doing and nothing on it. The Hasidic make it like every other day in their lives. By doing nothing on it, the Hasidic ultra-Orthodox Jews make it like every other day in their worthless lives.
Even if they read, they'd be reading the Torah. So I mean, they wouldn't be reading the Torah. They'd be reading. So
they
nothing.
May read the Talmud, but yes,
Talmud and all horrible things.
They don't work, and they don't engage. Christians, like everything else, replace it with Sunday worship services, and Muslims, clueless as ever, after claiming that their Quran confirms the Torah, play jihadist on Fridays, of course, between prostrations to Allah. This is also a scathing indictment of Roman Catholicism and its stepchild, Orthodox and Protestant Christianity. According to God, our salvation is dependent upon how we observe His Shabbat. That's impossible to square with Sunday worship services. The Lord's Day, our replacement theology. When we observe the Torah and act upon its instructions, we do become the goody two-shoes character, but instead real. We become established, we become confident, we become truthful. We become like dote. Our actions are guided by Yahowah, keeping us from being raw, immoral, and irrational. Now, continuing to speak of the Goy, we find that this observant foreigner and authorized designee is directly associated with Yahowah. The text reads, this is Yeshaya 56:3. Do not say to the observant son of a foreign land, Wa ben ha nekar, one who pays attention and who is observant from nekar, one who knows and understands through thoughtful examination, who recognizes and acknowledges, and who is discerning and respectful, who has formed a relationship with Yahowah, who is associated with, having joined forces with, who is attached and bound to, engaged in a very close relationship with, and therefore accompany Yahowah. Something which infer or suggest Yahowah has abandoned me, preventing me from being included as part of his family. He has separated and forsaken me. Don't say that. And let's not an esteemed and authorized designee say, well, now, if I have become a silenced counselor and a muted messenger, if I become a paralyzed worker, withered, an advisor and counselor who has been shut down. To the contrary, this is what Yahowah says. On behalf of individuals who have been castrated as a result of the positions they have taken as leaders, Laha Zaris, regarding highly valued individuals who have been granted authorization, these official guides who have been emasculated and neutered by their societies as a result of their leadership, of those who provide guidance regarding the benefits of the relationship by consistently and continually being observant during my Shabbats, who evaluate and then choose to walk along the correct path in difference to me, out of respect for me, to please me, out of their desire to be with me, eager to experience this with me, and who are willing to demonstrate an intense desire to learn about, to be steadfastly committed to being empowered by my covenant, Shazaz, to be resolutely focused upon, committed to study, dedicated to accomplishing the intended purpose through an unremitting and unrelenting resolve to help encourage others to grasp hold of and prevail through my covenant. Ba Bereth Ani. I will offer, freely giving to them, in my home and within my family, and within my protected enclosure, an outstretched and welcoming hand, and a name better than the sons and daughters. And I will give to him and to them an everlasting and eternal designation and reputation, which for the benefit of the relationship will never be removed.
Wow.
I have to tell you, the last part of that is the part that really was so cool to me. Because with the team that has rallied around this retranslation and rewriting of all of these books, and has been so dedicated not only to their publication on Amazon, but also to their presentation online, and fact-checking and editing the edit paths. We have so many wonderful people that have become part of this team. And then those who, by the way, speaking of part of the team, Steve, whom we reached out to, who communicates typically in the chat room, is Mad Dog. Steve Smyrna is well. He was in the. I asked people to see if they could find out where he was and if he was doing okay, and we didn't hear from him. But he sent an email this past week and said that it was supposed to be day surgery and a procedure, and it did not go as planned, and he was in the hospital for 2 months. Did not have access to the internet where he was, and so the day that he came home, he reached out to us and told us that he's on the mend. So we're delighted to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the part that resonated with me here is that I will give to him and them. Nathan La, Hugh/him. I will offer him and then bestow upon them, appointing for him and them. The Hugh, which is him, is in 1QISAA, and also the Septuagint. Him, Hem in Hebrew, which is them, is in 1QISAB and in the Masoretic text. I think it's both. I think that all of us who have combined to reach out to Yahweh's people are all included in this. So here's what we have. And by the way, everything that God says, we should all personalize. God does not reveal things that only apply to one person and that shouldn't resonate with everybody. So everybody who is listening, who has the time and inclination and the passion, should go about translating Yahweh's testimony and should go about, if they feel like they can contribute, explaining it to the best of their ability and to sharing it. And even if that's not their thing, then to take what we have learned and to share it. Engage in the process. Don't be a couch potato. It's much more fun to be part of the process. So the first part of this, God is saying, don't go and say, woe is me. God, doesn't listen to me. God has abandoned me. God has prevented me from being included in his family. And don't tell him that, because he ain't going to buy it. He knows it's not true. And if you were to say, hey, I'm just not up to this challenge. I'm either too old or too tired or too busy, and God says, I'm not buying that either.
You can do something.
Yeah. So to the contrary, this is
words.
What Yahweh says on behalf of individuals who have been. We have a world that loves to castrate anybody that brings the truth. As a result of the positions they have taken as leaders, you put your head up above the crowd in our society, and people are going to take swipes. Somebody was over the other day, and they said they Googled me, and I just laughed. I mean, there are millions of people who have taken swipes at me. I don't care, and you've got to get to the point where you don't care. So, the very fact that society is lashing out against us tells us that we're right where God wants us to be. We are saris, highly regarded and valued individuals from Yahweh's point of view. And he's granted us this authorization, and he will grant anybody as part of his family who wants to explain and share his words. We are the official guides who, by societies, our culture has attempted to emasculate and neuter us. Of those who provide guidance regarding the benefits of the relationship, Asher, who are consistently and continually observant, Shamar, during my Shabbats. Well, it's pretty hard to do nothing if you're consistently vigilant, observant, and thoughtful, who evaluate and choose to walk along the correct path to me, in respect for me. Shabbats. So we know that path is through the Moed Mikre, and who are willing to demonstrate an intense desire to learn about and to be steadfastly committed to and to be empowered by my covenant. Chazak ba bereth ani, because I will freely offer them. Now, this is a lot of things went into the before I'm freely offering. Okay? The steadfastly desire to learn about the covenant, committed to walking along the correct path, respect for Yahweh. They are exercising their free will to show their desire to learn. They're observant and thoughtful on the Shabbat. They have stood up as leaders, been attacked by their society for having done so. And based upon that, God says, I will offer freely giving to them my home, and within my family, and within my protective enclosure, an outstretched and welcoming, empowering hand. God is reaching down and out to us, welcoming us, empowering us, supporting us, and giving us a name even better than other sons and daughters. Yeah, there's a lot of wonderful names in the Torah. Yahshua is one of them. You know, Yahweh liberates, he delivers, he saves. Yoel, Yahweh is God. Elia, God is Yahweh. You know, Noach, worthy guide. Moshe, one who withdraws. Dod, the beloved. Zachariah, remember Yah. There are a lot of marvelous names. Those are the names of sons and daughters of Yahweh. Sarah, to engage and endure. Her name was integrated into Yisrael, to engage and endure with God. Lots of wonderful names, and God's saying, no, the name that I'm giving those who engage in such a way that they check off the boxes here that I delineated. I'm not giving anything away for free. I'm giving it to them for free, but this is what they have done. I'm going to give them a name that's even better than the names of other sons and daughters.
Forever.
And, I'd be happy to be called Bozo in heaven.
Most people would. Yeah, yes. Absolutely. But this is stunning. It's really stunning.
A name is something that's enduring. It's identifying. Yeah. It's descriptive. And so if Yahweh's going to give us a name that's better than some of those that we have just mentioned, that's pretty cool.
Boy, that's more than cool. That's amazing.
Pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool. And wow. I will give to him and them an everlasting and eternal designation and reputation, which for the benefit of the relationship will never be removed. I've long thought that here we are. We began this, at least I did almost 21 years ago now. Kirk, I think you're 10, 12 years.
13, 14, yeah, 30. Yeah, we're getting close to 14. I think.
We've been doing this for a good while, and we have probably in the range of 6, 7, 8 more years, maybe a little more if we participate in the witnessing during those last 3 years. But that's kind of what we have left, and that seems like an awfully short period of time to give up, even if you're devoting 10, 12 hours a day to it. That's a very minuscule amount of time to give up for the realization that there may be 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 more people sharing eternity, having an unlimited number of days. It's a logical, reasonable trade. And understand that it's not like we're trading something where we're giving up something to gain something. You know, we're giving up our time, for example, to gain time for others, most of whom we don't even know. Because our time that we spend in this is so rewarding. So it's like, I'm going to give you the opportunity to study with me and to learn from me, and then I'm going to give you the opportunity to share what you learned from me, and then I'm going to enrich other people with it. So it seems to me that it's kind of like the Passover meal. We're not really giving anything to Yahweh. This meal here is really structured. So no matter what we do, we receive infinitely more than we're contributing.
Well, Craig, even if you were just to do, if you were looking at these passages and you just sat down and you just translated a few of the key words, just for your own satisfaction, you realize this is really what he says. This is not a joke. This is because I all this last few weeks I've been also looking at the Christian Bibles and how bad they are. But only it doesn't even take much but a few words to do it. So it should satisfy you personally that you know you're hearing the right thing. You can prove it to yourself, and the more you do it, the more you feel like Yahweh's right there with you. And obviously, yes, he knows what we're doing. He knows what you're doing. He knows what everyone is doing that participates in the show or just listens to the show and gets better so they can help their children.
Right. He knows. He cares.
He does.
He's back engaged. Yes, he's back engaged. His set-apart spirit is back engaged. We're right up against it. Yahweh is near. He is approachable now. Let's take advantage. So let it not be said in the presence of this Nakar and Saris, the observant foreigner who's come to understand through thoughtful examination and who, as an official designee, has been ostracized from the mainstream, that Yahweh has abandoned his people, because he hasn't. His people have abandoned him. Nor let it be said that he or anyone has prevented his people from knowing him. Now, interesting thing here, my computer, it just decided in the middle of that it was going to close down Word. Isn't that interesting? But anyway, it's come back up. Let's just hope that my computer decides that it's not time to shut it down again. But sometimes you just want to curse Bill Gates and company for creating an operating system that
don't operate.
Yeah, it doesn't operate. But those things are not true. We know better. The Israelites are estranged from God because they have done this to themselves. Our mission is to share this profound truth with anyone who will listen. Moreover, this Nakar and Saris has not sought to replace Yehuda. We're not preaching replacement theology. No. Instead, we're here to welcome Yehudim Jews. We're committed to guiding God's people home. This process begins by being observant, by coming to know and then forming a relationship with Yahweh. Yahweh values the observant, especially when they take their lumps for standing up against the ways of man. He wants us to provide guidance. He wants us to endure the darts and the arrows of the naysayers, especially when we talk about the benefits of the covenant relationship. The insight which really stands out here, I think, that grabs our attention, is the way Yahweh describes his designee observing the Sabbath. He is not inactive. He is not doing nothing, as the religious profess, but instead is genuinely observant. What's the best place to be observant? Read his testimony. Translate it. Comment on it. Think about it.
Yeah.
You know, so as a result of this approach to this day of promise, he is found leading others down the path which leads to the benefits of the relationship. And this is something, that the Nakar SRE is eager to experience with Yahweh, as it is born out of his deep respect for God and his desire to please him. I find pleasing God to be quite pleasing. As such, we are demonstrating an intense desire to learn, which is empowering. And Yahweh has responded to this devotion to his covenant by welcoming us into his family. God is doing so with an outstretched and enabling hand. While it's apparent that we are seeking to please God, Yahweh is not pursuing accolades. We aren't pursuing accolades. God is offering us a better name than any other, but not because we have requested it. I didn't even think about it. There's times I thought about, hey, Kirk, you and I don't have Hebrew names. So wouldn't it be nice if we were given a Hebrew name? I picked one that I thought was really cool, that I really liked, which was Yada. Still like that name. But we don't have Hebrew names. Yahweh's saying he's going to give us one. That's pretty cool. But we didn't ask him for it. We're not seeking these kinds of things from God. It's just God's nature to want to give. And the name that he may give us, by the way, is the same name that he is giving all of his children, which is, again, reemphasizes the importance of making everything personal, even though it applies to everyone. Everyone in the covenant is going to gain Yahweh's name. And so if we're gaining a name that everybody is gaining, it's still the best name there is.
Yeah.
Yahweh. Yes.
Yeah.
So God is offering us a name better than any other. And the only name that I know that's better than any other is his. And we will forever be known by
You're good, huh?
One who shared the benefits of relations. This goes on to say, the children of the observant and discerning.
And that's all the rest of us. Yeah.
That's the descendants here are those who are part of Yahweh's family because of what we have learned.
Yeah.
But I do think it was nice of Yahweh after that extraordinary disclosure. That existed in Chronicles of Words of the Day, where Solomon is giving the commencement speech for the completion of Yahweh's home on Mount Moriah, and he closes by talking about this Nakri, which is based upon Nakar. And so we're familiar with it because we found it not looking for it. We found it because we were actually trying to come up with a serviceable definition for Zaroa, because it became obvious there were three Zaroa, and they aren't all the Passover lamb, the sacrificial lamb, so that one definition was insufficient because Dod is also a Zaroa, as is Moshe. And so we were trying to come up with a workable definition for Zaroa, which became the protective shepherd, the operating shepherd as well, the one who protects the flock, the one who leads the flock, but also and delivers the flock, but also the sacrificial lamb. So
the enabler.
We also learned that Zaroa is based upon what verb? Zara. So the Zaroa is one who sows the seeds of truth. And we were searching for the meaning of Zaroa when we came upon that passage, because it says that the Nakar is going to focus on the Zaroa. It's going to identify the Zaroa, and it's going to tell us that the most important of the Zaroa is soap. And that's where we found the Nakar. And here in Yashaya, Yahweh is using the same term.
Do you realize too that when you said that, when we came to that conclusion, when you started talking about it, a lot of people became exactly what this last few paragraphs were talking about. They said, "Don't listen to this man."
Yeah, exactly.
And so Yahweh says, "Listen," and Yahweh says, "Listen to this man."
Yeah, the more that several things happened along the way. One is that we lost a significant number of those who were listening to us when we came to expose and condemn Paul. So be it. We lost a very significant number of those who were listening to the program when we came to realize that Yosha was nothing more and nothing less than the Passover lamb. Yeah. And we lost a lot of people over that. When we began to explain that from God's perspective, Dode's right, and that Dode is the chosen one, he is the Son of God, he is the Messiah, he is the King of Kings. A lot of people didn't want to hear that either.
No, that freaked them out.
Yeah, and then when Yahweh did something that we did not expect, quite frankly, I don't think I would have preferred it not to have been that way, which is that he has many, many, many prophecies about what we are doing. And I think that caused people to be uncomfortable because we had way too many people initially that were conspiracy buffs. And I became when God made it clear, we don't engage in those conspiracies, don't promote conspiracies. Yeah. And I began to expose and condemn them. We had a lot of people that turned there, and then to hear God say, you ought to listen to him, you ought to do what he says, you ought to capitalize on this. He's writing my sign, my nest. That caused a lot of people to walk away. And we are never going to walk away from where God's words lead, even if they don't lead to the place we expect. Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. I really do.
I do too.
Look how many things have just opened up. You just go, wow, look, I didn't ever even wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think that there were some people too that I can think of one in particular now that doesn't much like Jews. And so when I rewrote all of these books saying, I had been way too anti-Christian and not nearly the focus that was needed on being anti-Judaism.
Yeah, and it was a shortcoming. From their religion.
Yeah, it was a shortcoming that I'm writing these books. Yahweh was writing these books for the benefit of his people, knowing that there will be Goyim who will read them and capitalize upon them. But the primary thrust of Yahweh's message is always to his people. And there's a lot of folks that just don't like Jews. So, there's a whole lot of things that you can say that's not going to make you real popular. But so long as you continue to focus on Yahweh's message, you're going to be popular with him. Yeah. So the children of the observant and discerning foreigner, the Nakar, the one who pays attention and is attentive from Nakar, the one who knows and understands through thoughtful examination, who recognizes and acknowledges, and who is perceptive and respectful, have formed a relationship with Yahweh. So the children of the observing and discerning foreigner have formed a relationship with Yahweh. What a wonderful affirmation of what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
They serve him. Boy, can I ever think of the hours that have been devoted to this outreach to God's people. We serve him, and we do so with love of Yahweh's name. Mm-hmm. It is the banner to which we all rally. We love Yahweh's name. Seeking to exist as his co-workers, they always observe, exclusively, literally, and continually. They examine and consider. It's the call participle active, known for actually and actively being attentive and thoughtful on the Shabbat, making it special by not disrespecting it. You know the best way to disrespect it? The way you would go about disrespecting Yahweh's name. Yeah, ignoring it.
Change it or ignore it, yeah.
Right. You do nothing?
Yahweh's script. Wow.
Yeah, God says, I want you to act and engage. I want you to be observant. I want you to listen. So you want to disrespect God? Don't listen. Don't observe. Do nothing. Right?
Yes. I mean, it's just...
They willingly demonstrate.
Yahweh scripted this. Wow.
He did. This is not you. Yeah, you don't like this. You don't like it. Don't complain to me. You know, if you don't like it. I mean, I don't. First of all, it's not fair. Actually, if you don't like it, complain to me. Yahweh's had enough complaints already. They willingly demonstrate an intense desire to learn about, to be steadfastly committed to, and to become empowered by my covenant. Boy, how many times have we said that? It's not just the love of Yahweh's name. The emphasis in all of this is to be covenant. We realize that all of God's benefits come to us by accepting the terms and conditions of the covenant. We are committed to, we're empowered by, we intensely desire Yahweh's covenant. God speaking in first person. It is my desire to bring them to my set-apart mountain and cause them to rejoice, being elated in the family. Who is them? Seeking to exist as his co-workers, they always observe. Who is them? The children of the observant and discerning foreigner who have formed a relationship with Yahweh. Yahweh says, it is my desire to bring them to my set-apart mountain, and for me to cause them to rejoice and be elated within the family. Their uplifting sacrifices and elevating offerings will be accepted, and they're going to be favored on my altar. This is because my house shall be called a home of intervention for the entire family.
Wow. What a letter from Yah.
What a letter from Yah, yes. We're going to think about everything in there, but one point at a time. Hasidic Jews look down upon non-Orthodox Jews, and they are races in their degradation of Goyim. With all evidence to the contrary, they view themselves as superior. And yet those receiving preferential treatment from Yahweh are Goyim and secular Jews. As the proverbial sons and daughters of the Nakar, observant foreigner, they would all have been decidedly anti-religious. Now, let's be clear. The Goyim who are being adopted by Yahweh are not being accepted because they're Goyim, but instead because they have chosen to be as Yisrael was intended. These Yehudim are not being rejected or replaced because they are Yehudim, but because they have chosen to behave like Goyim. The Goyim who are going to be there on Yahweh's mountain, who Yahweh is bringing there, who he is having celebrate with him, whose offerings he is accepted. What are their offerings? To sow the seeds of his words, and to cultivate them, and to bring souls to him through this
studying the word,
on his testimony. That those Goyim are there because they have chosen to be what Yehudim means, beloved of Yah. And the Yehudim that are not being there are not there because they have chosen to behave like Goyim. Said another way, the covenant relationship is correct while Judaism is wrong. There is nothing wrong with being an adopted Goy in Yahweh's family, because guess what? You get a name that's still better than the names of other sons and daughters. And even if they call you Bozo the Clown, you're there. They can never take that away. There are a number of commonalities between what has been said of the Nakar and those who have come to know Yahweh through this partnership. And it is a partnership. That's how Yahweh likes to work. Okay, so we are a minority partner. Doesn't matter. Following Abraham's footsteps, we have come to enjoy a close personal relationship with Yahweh. As children of the covenant, we have fallen in love with Yahweh's name, which is why you find so many of us congregating around a place called Yada Yahweh. To a person, we are thrilled to be employed by our Heavenly Father. We consider it a privilege to serve, As unqualified as we may be, we recognize that with time short and workers few, God is more than capable of overcoming our inadequacies, enlightening and empowering us with his word and with his spirit. As Yeshua's prophecy attests, we are actively engaged on the Shabbat, celebrating the promise of the seventh day by being observant. We use this day to closely examine and carefully consider Yahweh's Torah teaching, his guidance. For many of us, the seventh day gets underway as the sun sets on a Friday evening. And again, our Shabbat Torah study on Yada Yahweh Radio, as we're doing now. For us, the Shabbat is liberating. It is the antithesis of the rabbinical approach of being paradized by ridiculous religious edicts that ensure that this weekly opportunity to enhance our relationship with Yahweh is squandered. With Hasidic Jews having made their stifling and antiquated religion their way and their life's work, their halakha, their walk, the Shabbat is profaned as the most religious day of the week. Excuse me. Unlike those who have come to know Yahweh through his Nakar, they show their contempt by honoring their Talmud and then call their religious drivel the Torah. They despise Yahweh's name to such a degree they have edited out his Torah and prophets. The majority of souls who have come to know Yahweh through the Nakar's translations and shared insights are actually Yehudim Jews. We are Shazak Ba Bereth, steadfastly committed to learning all there is to know about the covenant. We demonstrate our unremitting and unrelenting resolve to encourage others to prevail, as we have, by becoming part of God's family. We identify ourselves as covenant. Upon Yahweh's return with Daud on Yom Kippurim, we joyfully anticipate being brought to Yahweh's Har Kodesh, his set-apart mountain. We'll be there. Yeah, we're going to be there to celebrate God's reconciliation with Yisrael and Yehudah. It is the happiest and saddest day, the most important day of all creation. Up to this point, there is no more important day for Yahweh than this day, the day of reconciliation with Israel and Yehudah, because it's forever. And every promise that goes on, they will never again face hardship. They will never again be separated. It is the single most important day in all of Yahweh's eternal existence. Yom Kippurim in year 6,000 Yah. And we're going to be there.
Yeah.
We're going to observe the reunion. And to some degree, we serve to enhance it by openly sharing the words of the prophets. As part of Yahweh's growing family, we rejoice knowing that we contributed as Yahweh had requested. Yes, Kirk?
Where on this planet could you study the Torah? There's some people that could find pieces of it out, but I mean, where could you go? This is a big deal. Knew it from the start.
Yes. Yeah, and realistically, I understand that very few people are willing to take the time to correctly translate the words of the Torah and prophets out of the Dead Sea Scrolls or even from the Masoretic text.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize that most people don't speak Hebrew, just a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the world. And while English is the lingua franca of the world, and more people speak English than any other language, particularly people that would be receptive to knowing Yahweh, that not everyone does, and there are folks that are all upset that, well, it's not fair. What about the person, that doesn't have access and doesn't speak English? But, realistically, just be honest here. There are 7 billion smartphones out there. Every smartphone has a translating capability. You can use your smartphone to translate any text in all of the browsers. So you want to translate? If it's not your native language, it will offer to translate it. It can be translated to any language, and it's all free. And thanks to Jackie and David, it all is available to you. There is no excuses. It's there. If you want to prioritize it, it's available to you. Our offering on this day will be accepted because it's comprised of Yisraelites and Yehudim. We offered to study Yahweh's words. We offered to listen to Yahweh speak. We offered to be observant. We offered to learn. Then we offered to teach. And that offering, where Yahweh has provided the seeds, and we have planted them and nurtured them and scattered them, and now we're reaping their fruit. We will have played our part in calling Yisrael and Yehudim home. The favorite of God will be lifted up on this day because they too have come to love Yahweh's name, Yahweh's people, Yahweh's place, and Yahweh's words. We intervened in this dispute on behalf of the entire family. We intervened by rebuking Judaism. We intervened by celebrating what it means to be Yehudim. We did intervene. We didn't intervene as a mediator. We didn't intervene as a savior. We didn't intervene as a prophet. We didn't intervene as a messianic figure. We didn't intervene under any title. We intervened simply because Yahweh asked us to. And our intervention was to do what Towrah requests, loudly, boldly, bluntly expose and condemn those things which lead people away from God while witnessing to the truth. That is our offering on this day, and it has been accepted, and it has borne fruit, and the fruit are known as covenant. At this glorious moment, one in which we find our beloved Yahweh celebrating the life of Dode and examining how we should echo his sentiments to call his people home, I consider it right to contemplate where Yahweh has inspired his prophet to take us through these words. And I'm going to share this, and then we'll begin this time next week on Yahweh 56:8. But humbly, and it's very difficult to talk about this. I can say we. I know it's I, and I think it's shared. Have made only one request of Yahweh. I mean, yes, to begin this process, I know I asked for three things, which were that God would protect my home and family because what we were doing was dangerous. And it's one thing for me to be vulnerable. I've lived a wonderful life. It's another thing to put them at risk. And so I asked him for that, and he has done far more than what I asked for in that regard. The second was to never allow me to work alone. That to provide the spirit, to provide insights, to provide the support, to do what was necessary to make an inadequate tool functional. So that I would never have to be self-reliant. I would always have Yahweh's involvement and support and contribution, so that when we function the best, I am a tool to be used. And the third thing I asked for is that God would work to make what we learn available. And David comes into our lives, and a Yoel before him, and has made this message available online. And then we have these wonderful tools where Jerry McLaughlin is able to find broadcast opportunities and radio stations where we had not only our own show, but prior to that, probably in the range of 5,000 hours of radio interviews on talk radio shows around the country, sharing this message, and that Yahweh would find a way to communicate it. And then we have a Jackie and the edit team being so dedicated to these books and these publications. And then we have something I never would have expected, which is ability to take a text and within days of the time that it is completed, and have the book available in so many different formats. And they're all now available here, many of them free, and others so ridiculously cheap that your soul, I'm sure, is worth it. These were the things that we asked, and we didn't ask for anything else, other than I said in passing several times that I would like, if Yahweh would humor me, two things. I wanted to be among those who was not just a spectator. I wanted to be a contributing witness at the trial against Muhammad and against Paul. I figured I had devoted enough time to exposing and condemn them that, while I'm certainly not needed and God can do better than me, I would find satisfaction in being among those who condemn them. And the other thing that we'd asked for was to be in the back of the room, inconspicuous, just having the opportunity to see the glow, twinkle in Yahweh's eyes, the smile on his face, the outstretched arms, the first hug, as some of those who came to know Yahweh and become part of the covenant because of what we had learned and shared. That I thought sharing that moment, if it's not too private and personal, would be a wonderful thing. So I've asked for that. And yet here now we read that on the most important day in the eternity of Yahweh's existence, that he's not putting us allowing us to sneak into the back of the room. He's bringing us to his set-apart mountain. He is causing us to be among the celebrants. He is saying that what you've brought, I accept. It's so reassuring. So Yahweh. And as we go to the and maybe I'll leave the recap for next week so that we roll into it. But it is so Yahweh to say, okay, from your perspective, you contributed nothing and gained everything. That's not Yahweh's perspective, because he's Dad. And no matter how big a head start Dad has given us, no matter how many tools Dad has given us, no matter how much Dad has invested in us and set us up for success, when we do succeed on his behalf, it makes him enormously happy. And, well, this should be Yahweh's most glorious day to celebrate the reconciliation of the relationship with his people. He recognizes that if he shares that joy, it's magnified. And if he gets to share it with his children, so much the better. And if he gets to credit his children for whatever little bit they contributed for it, what would make a father prouder? And so it is exceedingly revealing of his role in our lives and his nature that he has allowed us to participate in something that he is entirely responsible for and that we are beneficiaries of. And yet from his perspective as Dad, he wants to credit us and show his satisfaction that we were there and we did our best. So it is an exceedingly touching thing. It's why this is material is so touching, because everything we've come to know, everything we've come to share is reinforced in these words, and we're all brought right into the middle of it with Yahweh celebrating Yom Kippur.
What a walk this is, eh? Wow.
Oh, what a walk this is. If it gets better, I don't think I can handle it. I'm pretty happy with the way things are.
Some calm down,
if it's going to get better, you better go slow. Otherwise, I'll blow circuits.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Kirk. Thank you for everybody who's part of this team. Please enjoy the new website, yadayah.com or yadayahweh.com. Please share it, particularly with Yehudim, with Israelites, and of course with Goyim. There's going to be a lot of very happy Goyim celebrating Yom Kippurim with Yahweh. May Yah bless. I look forward to being with you this time next week. I'm sorry for my voice going in and out, but we do not claim at any point to be perfect implements. It is through our flaws that Yahweh shines most brightly. Yes. May Yah bless. Happy Shabbat.
Yeah. Shabbat shalom, buddy.
Good night.
Good night.
This time next week. Bye.
Mm-hmm.